It's not really how you start, but how you finish. So you can't really design your life well unless you start with the end in mind. This is what I'm hoping to achieve. This is what I would like the Lord to do in my life. And we started a series called Design Your Life, a New Christian. And last Sunday I spoke about patience and what patience is and how as we design our life that we should exercise, we ought to exercise patience. And we spoke part in the end about that. This Sunday I want to look at a man in the Bible by the name of Solomon and how he designed his life and what he has to teach us about finishing well. Nobody in life gets to design how you start out. One of the lessons we learn from Solomon is you can come from a messed up family and still be used by God. How many of us come from an imperfect family? Huh? Come on, that should be everyone. Okay? I'll bet already anybody's story think that it's worse than Solomon's story in your family. Let me tell you it's not. Because to understand his story, you have to get to the start of his story. So his oldest half-brother, Amnon, he violated his half-sister. And when the father, David, did nothing about it, Amnon was killed by the second oldest half-brother named Absalom. Absalom wanted to take the throne away from his own father David, so he was killed by David's general. David was devastated by this. He famously cried out, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you." That's actually what Absalom wanted, for David to die instead of him, but David was not willing to do what Absalom wanted him to do. Thirdly, a guy by the name of Adonijah was also hyper-ambitious. We were told David was still king, but he was growing old, and Adonijah, whose mother was Haggit, put himself forward and said, "I will kill the king." He got chariots and horses, he got 50 men to run ahead of him, and that's where the story began then. By the way, by way of explanation of why his son would do this to his dad, paternally wise, his father had never rebuked him by saying, "Why do you behave as you do?" David apparently was just, was not very passive as a father. And if you're a parent, a really good question to ask your kids sometimes is, why do you behave as you do? David didn't do this, so everybody paid the price. Meanwhile, Solomon was a child of David and another woman. Remember her? Bathsheba. Bathsheba had been taken by David in adultery. David had her first husband killed on the battlefield, and it turned out that apparently David had promised Bathsheba that Solomon was going to be a king. But now it's really clear, if Adonijah becomes king, Adonijah will kill his half-brother Solomon. So Solomon kills Adonijah first. That's a little review in a nutshell. David's first son is killed by his second son. The second son is killed by David's general Joab, who David with his dying breath left instruction to be killed. The third son, Adonijah, is killed by David's son Solomon. So, does that family worse than yours? No? If you ever tempted to look at our current political situation and think things couldn't never get worse. It actually happened already back then. Finally, Solomon is king. All these other guys are dead, so Solomon is king. And he consolidates his power. And Solomon is young and handsome and energetic and devoted. And one day he goes to worship God. And God appears to Solomon in a dream. And God says, ask for whatever I can give to you. An amazing offer to be asked by God. Solomon makes his request. And he begins by thanking God for his goodness towards him and his messed up family. And he says, you have shown great kindness to your servant. You have made your servant king in place of my father David. It's really interesting language here because Solomon is a king, but he describes himself like a servant who is a king. Then comes Solomon's request to God's question. He says, the challenge of being the king is going to be too much for him. And so he says to God, so give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? God is pleased with that request. And God says to Solomon, you could have asked for anything for yourself, riches or long life or glory, but instead you have asked for wisdom to help serve my people. Therefore, I will give you wisdom and wealth and honor and long life. Solomon was very wise, and immediately after this came a famous moment with two women come before him. They're both prostitutes and both claim to be the mother of a little baby. They each demand custody over that baby, and Solomon thinks about this, and he tells them that he's going to cut the baby in half. And they each could get half of that baby. One of them immediately cries out and says, don't do that. In that case, give the baby to the other woman. Just please let the child live. And Solomon realizes she must be the real mother and gives the boy to her. Now the reason the text tells us that of the occupation that they were prostitutes is that in ancient world, prostitutes were the least likely to get justice. They just never got justice. They were at the bottom of the justice sort of pyramid. No little girl grew up hoping to enter that occupation. Nobody does today. They live at a risk. They live in the margins. Here's a king who cares about them. Here's a king who will bring justice and wisdom to those who least deserve to have justice and wisdom. It really is living like a servant to God. And we are told that the nation holds King Solomon in awe. Words about what a remarkable man Solomon gets around. God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight and a breadth of understanding and measurable riches. Solomon's wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the people of the East and greater than the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, including the Ethan, the Azarians, wiser than Heman, Kalkol, Dara, and the son of Mahol. These are like the Near East intellectual task force, these governors. And the Israelite says, our guy is smarter than your guys. It says, the scripture says about Solomon, he spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He spoke about plant lives, from the cedar of Lebanon to the hyssop that grew out of the walls. He also spoke about the animals and the birds and the reptiles and the fish. He was wise. He just knew so much. He was famous for his wisdom, so that even other rulers came out to check him. We are told that when the Queen of Sheba heard about Solomon, she came to test him with hard questions, and he passed with flying colors. Solomon answered all of her questions. Nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. Have you ever heard of the wisdom of Solomon? You heard of Israel. Because Solomon and Israel were one. Finally, Israel was a force to be reckoned with. As you might imagine, with his wisdom came great honor, great recognition, power, wealth, glory. King Solomon was great in riches and wisdom than all of the other kings on the earth. The king had a fleet of trade ships and sea with ships. Once every 3 years he turned and took the silver and the gold and ivory, and he had ships full of apes and baboons. Solomon had so much gold he doesn't even know what to do with it. All of his goblets are made of gold, but my favorite part is the baboons. Why on earth would you want a ship full of baboons? What are you going to do with so many baboons? Well, he has them. I don't think he knows what to do with them, but he has them. That's all a way of saying it was unprecedented prosperity for Israel, that they even had baboons. We are told the people ate and drank and were happy, especially Solomon. Listen to this. Take a look at what he consumed every day with his court. This is with his leaders. Keeping in mind that a single head of cattle can feed 800 people. Solomon's daily provision were 10 head of stall-fed cattle, 20 head of pasture-fed cattle, 100 sheep and goats, as well as a deer, gazelle, and a choice fowl. The man is clearly not a vegetarian, but he had vegetables too. There was no tofu, there was no other vegetarian alternatives. Of course, it takes lots of money to pay for all of this, and we are told that the tax system in Israel was regarded as a very heavy load on the people. It seems a little odd for a servant king to live like that. And on the other hand, Solomon was finally able to build the temple that the Lord said that his father wouldn't, but he would. David had so badly wanted to build a temple, but if you ever read through the text, it gives us a lot of details about how lavish the building materials were, and the point of the details is not so that the reader could understand it, but rather that the reader will go, wow, look at Solomon. Wow, Solomon prayed to dedicate the temple is a spiritual masterpiece of wisdom. And then there is a tiniest detail. We are told the temple was so fabulous that Solomon had spent 7 years building it. And then in the very next verse, it says it took Solomon 13 years, however, to complete the construction of his own palace. The writer makes no comment on this. He doesn't tell us how we are supposed to evaluate it. Biblical stories are often quite subtle, but the writer just notes in passing, however, that Solomon spent twice as much time doing something for his own glory than doing something for God's glory. The temple was built, and it was a beautiful temple. To show Israel devotion to God, other nations had many temples because other nations had many gods and many idols. Israel was unique in this regard. It had one temple because it had one God, and Solomon built it. However, the scripture says Solomon showed his love for the Lord by walking according to the instructions given by his father David. on the high places. Except. He showed his love for the Lord by walking according to God's instruction, except with his money, or except in the lack of action on behalf of the poor, or except for the anger and bitterness he would just indulge himself in, or except for the unreconciled relationship, or except for her use of deceit, or his use of deceit, for the way she or he would judge other people, or except for the way that they seriously intended to become a student of God and reading the Word of God, except for the way they never really intended to become a person marked by love. Except. Such a dangerous little word, isn't it? Someone's life was not marked by a giant. No. To God, it was marked by accept. I love you, God, accept. And that's a really dangerous word. Other than that, Solomon did amazing things with his wisdom. He built a temple, wide world, all the gold that he collected. Don't forget about the baboons. He ate like a king with other kings. He was a smart guy in a room. He built a room except this and that and that. And we come to the last chapter in 1 Kings that describe Solomon's life, chapter 11. And the writer has chronicled it so many impressive achievements. This remarkable resume of Solomon, this amazing life, and then he adds this verse. King Solomon, however, there's another word, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter. He loved the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the Sidonians, the Hittites. And Solomon behold, his wives turned his heart after their gods. And his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. That little except that was there earlier in the story never really went away, did it? It grew and grew and grew until it turned into a great, big other word. However, there is this odd cycle. Wisdom will sometimes lead to success, which leads to prosperity, which leads to being complacent and egotistical, which leads away from the very wisdom that started all of this. Solomon was very wise. Solomon got everything he ever wanted, but he ended up doing the very thing that would lead him away from the very God that gave it to him in the first place. The God who gave him the wisdom. And Solomon knew that this was wrong. Solomon understood God's instruction. Solomon was aware of the consequences. However, Solomon loved many foreign women. How many?
Many.
Very many. That's what the text says. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. And his wives led him astray. Yep, 700 wives will do that to you. The smartest guy in the world, and he gets married like 1,000 times. Really, Solomon? He followed Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. So Solomon, this wise man, did evil in the eyes. A little background for why this stuff was so serious. Ashtoreth was the mistress of the god Baal. Have you heard of the god Baal? He was like this this god that was around, and she was his mistress. People in ancient Middle East often practiced what was called sympathetic magic, where human beings would do things on earth to try to get the gods to do the same things. With Ashtoreth, they would often be involved in sacred temple prostitution. Young men and young women and young boys would be offered up to this mistress of this god to get the gods to make the earth fertile. Moloch is called the detestable because people would offer children sacrifice to him. Parents would have their children burnt at Moloch's altar. And Solomon, this wise man who walked in the sight of God, who did as God commanded him, Solomon, wise Solomon, is now a part of all of this. How did he get from there to where he is now? What happened? Well, there's actually a pretty simple answer. And it hits you and me pretty well. There is another force in life beside wisdom. Wisdom is wonderful, but there's another force, and if you let it in, it will eat wisdom for breakfast. You can think of them as two different paths in life. One path is wisdom, and the other one is desire. I can follow either path. Wisdom is a gift from God. The alternative is to just order my life around desire. Now, it's a good thing that we have a desire. God taught up desire. But you couldn't live a day if you didn't naturally desire to do things like eat, or breathe, or move, or be with other people. But desire is dangerous because if it's not tamed, it takes over your life. Desire by its nature is kind of very obsessive. When I desire something and the desire gets really strong, I start to feel like I must have it. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't think of anything that would get in the way of it. Desire asks the question of, what do I want? Look at a child with a sweet. They just want that sweet. You try to appeal the wisdom to them and say, it's not good for you. Your body needs protein. Your teeth are going to rot. You need vitamins. Sugar and fat is not nutritious for you. It's not going to make you healthy. It's not going to make you strong. You need to eat vegetables. Yeah, right. You try to convince a child who desires to have a sweet. And what will the answer be? But I need it. I must have it. My life can't carry on without it. Give me that sweet, or I will make your life miserable. Give me that sweet, and I will never ask you for anything again. Desire is that way, isn't it? And desire is not always connected to what is good. In Ephesians chapter 4, the Apostle Paul talks about what he calls deceitful desire. It's such an interesting phrase, deceitful desire, because desire is deceitful, because in the moment that makes you think about what it is, it says, if I just had what I want so badly, then I will be happy forever. And it wouldn't, would it? Desire not always narrows my thinking in one direction. Desire asks, what do I want? Desire always narrows your thinking. It shuts all kinds of thoughts out of your mind that could interfere with what really is good for you. I can design my life around just desire, follow my bliss, do what I want, or I can design my life around wisdom. Wisdom asks the question, what is good for you? What is best for you? It is why, for example, the writer of the book of James says, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, because God loves to give wisdom. God is generous when it comes to wisdom. Israel would have to keep looking for someone else until one day another man came along. After Solomon, there were a whole lot of kings who followed the desire and only brought Israel to their knees, not in prayer, but in persecution. So much so that Israel, people of Israel, were taken away from the country, from their home. But one day, another person came along, another man came along, who was almost also famous for his wisdom, who said he was also a king but lived as a servant. One of the most remarkable titles about this man was from Matthew chapter 12, when he said to the people, and now something greater than Solomon is here. And that was Jesus. Of course, anybody who heard that would have thought, really? This obscure carpenter who would become a penniless rabbi and did not have a place to lay his hand? While Solomon took 13 years to build his place with ships full of baboons and even goblets made of gold. Really? Now 2,000 years later, this man is wiser than Solomon. Here is wisdom. If you ever worried about designing your life, look at the lilies of the field. They don't toil. They don't spin. The resume doesn't look so great, but I tell you, not even Solomon in all his glory was dressed like one of these. Nobody ever finished like Jesus finished. Love and suffering he took with him on the cross. Not my will, but yours will be done, he was crying out. It is finished, and it was. The suffering was finished, but the glory just started. You know, I've been thinking a lot about finishing well. Jesus said one time that if you design your life right, if you live it in trust, as his disciples did, when it is all over, you will get standing for God, and God will say, well done, a good and faithful servant. My good and faithful servant. There's no other aim, is there? There's no other aim to life. There's no other purpose worth designing your life around. How do you want to finish? What was your life centered on? I, for one, would love to finish standing before the throne of thrones and hearing the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, saying to me, it doesn't matter how you started. It doesn't matter what you did in between. It doesn't matter how many times you didn't follow my purpose. Today, as you stand before me, I say to you, well done, my good and faithful servant, in whom I'm well. Amen? Let us pray. Heavenly Father, I pray for everyone in this room today